All right, we start another week here together, and we're taking a closer look, as we always do, each and every weekday at the numbers here in Arizona as it pertains to coronavirus. A couple of matters of business real quickly before we jump into all these numbers. President Trump is headed to Arizona. We're expecting Air Force One to touch down in just a bit. We'll update you right here when that happens, but he's expected to meet with Latinos for Trump. That's happening around 2:15. So on this broadcast, it'll start over there as well. We'll let you know if you'd like to switch over and watch that. In the meantime, we'll get to all the Arizona numbers to update Biden as well. He has plans to come to Arizona, but we haven't heard any specifics yet. The most he said is sometime after Labor Day. So as soon as we hear on that, we'll update you as well. All right, let's get to the numbers. Here we saw a few ticks higher on the weekend, nothing to be alarmed about, but then a really low reporting number today, as are typical for Mondays, to sort of balance everything out.
Mondays are, we're looking at realistically as Sunday's number. We'll get Monday morning, of course. So, these numbers, very low reporting today, 213. That's, I'm looking at my sheet while I'm talking here, and that is, that's about where it was last Sunday or last Monday. We see these really low numbers right now coming out of the weekend. The other interesting about today is that zero death report that we see. It is in fact a zero death report. So I checked the epi curve to see if there was any changes. And while we've talked about this before, where it's, it says zero, but there was one death in Maricopa or one death somewhere else, withdrew something from Mojave County or whatever. This is in fact a zero death report. We had no movement on the epi curve anywhere. So no deaths reported in Arizona over the 24-hour period. And then these numbers here, this is all off of 4,527 PCR tests and about 1,000 serology tests. That brings us to a testing positive of about 4.7. Really, all the numbers were under 5% today. 4.7 if you're just looking at the cases, 4.5 if you consider the epi curve, and 3.8 when you consider everything. So everything's looking really good today. But again, it's a Monday, so we expect Mondays to be a pretty good day.
Yeah. That's the good news in all this. We have a lot to tackle. Christina has comment of the day right here. This is a COVID update, not a survey of how you all are voting. So thank you, Christina. That is exactly it. We are talking specifically on the COVID numbers. And here's why. Here's a great example of why, Garrett. Phoenix Union High School is saying that they're not going to, or school district rather, is saying that they're not going to be going back until January. So this area, one of the concerns that they're watching in those numbers, and we have a reporter who is on this for us tonight. We'll get a little bit more information. But the school's dashboard is a place that we go often to help everybody get a closer look at how their numbers look, how their zip code looks. For Phoenix Union, and that's a high school district is what it seems there. How are things looking? What are they seeing in the numbers that maybe people who don't check this every day would want to note on there? Christina says you're welcome. My PSA for the day. Christina, thank you. All right. So for Phoenix Union, we can drill down to those numbers. And I want to remind everybody that your updated numbers come out on Thursday. So we'll of course dive way deeper into that right now. How do things look for that high school district though?
So the high school district itself is considered moderate transmission right now. We'll look at this. Cases per 100K from last week was under 50 at 46, and the percent positivity was 6.119. That's pretty much on the line with that percent positivity. On top of that, the week prior, you can see it has had lower case growth, but the percent positivity was also higher than 7%. What I can say for Phoenix specifically is because it's probably the most dense high school district in the valley. When you really drill down to some of the this is the sum of its parts. When you start looking at sort of smaller jurisdictions like the elementary school, you can see that there are several elementary schools within the Phoenix Union High School District that certainly have substantially higher percent positives, higher case levels. So I can see them sort of, when you're looking at the sum of its parts, having a little bit of concern. If you look at the zip codes that we talked about, really it's Phoenix Union High School area that still has some of these red zip codes in them. A lot of these are starting to come out of it. As we talked about last Friday, some of these zip codes are going to flip to yellow next week. Very likely flip to yellow next week, but there are still elements of these zip codes. As you can see right here, this is actually a small little zip code, 85004. It's within the Phoenix Union High School, but it's also probably within a Tempe residential, ASU residential. You can see it's so small, but I believe ASU is probably right there or something like that. And you can see this very high cases per 100 that just popped up from the last week. So there are a couple of little concerning spots in Phoenix Union High School that some of the other high school districts and unified districts don't really have the same concern at this very moment.
Yeah, and when you're looking at some of the elementary school districts as well, a lot of these kids have siblings in different schools. So
Yes.
just because you're going to a different school doesn't make you immune to this situation. This is updated on Thursday. We want to remind everybody. The web address is on the bottom there. If you want to go check it out a little bit closer for yourself, you can drill down to your zip code, your elementary school district, the high school district. And we heard from somebody on here last week who was concerned about this very thing. Their situation was in the West Valley, but it's similar to what we're seeing here, where one school district makes it into a yellow or an orange, as we've sort of named it, in the middle of the two, and another is not in the same situation. So this is a pretty similar example.
Yeah, and I could definitely see of all of that Phoenix Union High School is more. They're going to be. They're going to have that problem more than other high school districts, just because you see the number of elementary school districts that encompass Phoenix Union High School is so much greater than some of these others. Just like Avondale also sort of has a problem with this as well. It looks like they have 4 districts, whereas Phoenix Union has pretty much all of these right here. So yeah. I could definitely see them, making those sorts of decisions to say, well, we have several elementary school districts that are still insubstantial. And like you said, siblings going to different schools.
Yeah. Let's move on to the colleges too. So the way things are looking with the schools right now, the colleges are updating us on their situation and the number of COVID cases that they are seeing within their communities. But the University of Arizona, the president there just recommending a shelter in place for 14 days for students at U of A. He's saying that he would love to have daily testing, but it's just not feasible at this point for that school. Wouldn't that be incredible to be able to test like that? Currently, they're seeing, Garrett, about 1,150 cases so far?
Yes, and they certainly have had a pop in the last week or so, and I can see why this would be a concern for them. I'm going to share, I just did a quick graph of 85719, which is the zip code that follows along with U of A.
Yeah.
And this is what it looks like over the course of the pandemic. You can see, the numbers themselves are not, the y-axis, this number right here, it's only going up to 100. However, you can see this massive spike from just basically this last week. And then it goes down after a day of testing, but it's also gone up again for about 3 or 4 days. So I can see this is where they're sort of having a, they're recommending this, this policy, because you see there is sort of sustained growth in 85719 right now.
Yeah, and this isn't different than what we're seeing at some of the other big schools too. For instance, at ASU, they have about 1,300 to 1,400 cases right there. And Michael Crow even sending a letter over to the Arizona Department of Health Services to complain or alert them to a couple of bars that he believes are not participating in social distancing and not making things safe for students. As we see, if we have one situation where it gets out of control, it can be across the whole school. But in this case, we've got 2 presidents here of these of these schools really saying, I've got to get a handle on this. We're seeing a lot of factors coming into the schools as well. Not as many people coming over on the visas to be studying here and going to school here. We're seeing this plummeting number of people who are saying, I'll just study from home or go to school online. They're really like protecting the school as it is right now.
Yeah, and 85281, which is ASU Tempe, has a very similar situation as the U of A graph. I just graphed that one as we were talking, and it has basically the same sorts of movements that cause U of A to request a shelter in place or recommend a shelter in place. You can see this is the ASU bounce from early September that we all talked about, that sort of really pushed a lot of the zip codes surrounding ASU into the red. And then you can see this massive dip, but here again, some more increases from the last couple days in that zip code. So, you know, this has been a zip code that I mean, if I'm managing the pandemic, or at least trying to figure out how to keep it from spreading, this is a zip code that I would be concerned about, because, you know, we see this one bounce, and one bounce is not, you know, anything to freak out about. But now you're seeing sort of another week in which a bounce is materializing, and that is concerning, because you don't want these bounces to happen more than once. You sort of want them to, like, okay, if you know, this is the incoming class making this bounce right here, and then after that we're starting to see leveled off numbers. Well, obviously this isn't leveled off. It's still testing at a higher rate than what it did at the peak of the whole pandemic, which is right here. So this is just something that if you're dealing with ASU, this is something that you would be concerned about.
Yeah. Just to be fair, we'll talk about NAU. Obviously, they went back into the classroom situation a little bit later, but they have reported 96 cases. So we'll continue to update you on that school as well. But for our three major universities here, that's how things look. Garrett, when we are seeing lower numbers today, do you think, and has that affected the R naught number to sort of bring things down a little bit? I know last week there was a little bit of concern from folks on here who were seeing that start to trend up, and it had been up for a couple days in a row. How did things look today?
We're still up in the red. It's a 1.05, a little lower than when we saw a couple when we did this last. I think we were at 1.1, so it's trended down slightly, but it's still in the red. And this is pretty much can be accounted for with the ASU U of A movements we've seen, and NAU. You know, to be fair, so this is what's causing us to have an increased rate of transmission number, at least an estimate. So, and you can see we also have some pretty sizable error bars on this as well, a 0.81 to a 1.24. So, you know, they're when you look at that, they're saying, okay, we essentially what this means with those error bars and it being at 1.05 as well, we think it's growing, but we're not really sure, because your error bars are pretty much, you know, it could be growing sizably or not growing at all. So, you know, just something to be considered. We're sort of in that middle pack. And but it is something to you know, I have said before that if it stays over 1 for over 2 weeks, then, you know, that is at least somewhat of a cause of concern. And you know, it's still over 1, and it was over 1 most of last week. So, you know, we're going to have to keep watching.
Robert Garcia writes, kids back in school equals COVID-19 going back up. That could be one of the factors in this. Of course, we talked about watching things for Labor Day and school back in session and some of these businesses opening back up. Can we pull the actual numbers, the percent of kids who are now testing positive with this here in Arizona? I believe we were at about 12 or 13% as we last checked.
Yeah, we are at 13% still. I'll put that up right now. This is the chart right here, and you know, as I've been tracking this for the last week or so, that under 20 demo has grown at a faster pace than the other demos. You can see about 27,000, 26,890 cases right now. Now, all in all, the rate of growth has been very low for everybody. So even though this particular demo has grown at a faster pace than the other demos, it's still, I mean, we're still talking about under 1% growth in most cases. So that's just something to consider. It's just at a higher rate than everybody else. So is it really, I mean, is it really impacting a lot of the school districts? It doesn't really appear to be impacting a lot of the school districts right now. We haven't seen any school district flip to red yet. Or at least many zip codes. In fact, the norm right now is to see the zip codes in Maricopa County flip to yellow. But we'll have to watch. You know, this is again all stuff. You know, we always have to watch. We always have to, you know, 4 or 5 days of observations happens.
Christina writes, have any kids here died from COVID, or how have the symptoms been? We can only tell you the under 20 group because that's how they divide it for us. Here's where you can find the information. Garrett's pulling it up on the AZDHS site. It is, at last check, wasn't it about a dozen people?
It was. They actually pulled a couple from the list last week, so it's now down to 10. And that's obviously well under 1%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's well under 1%. So it's 0.01%, in fact, or 0.02%. So it's an extremely small number of deaths that are attributable to COVID-19 from that demographic at this point.
Yeah, we'll of course still track it for everybody, and it's beyond devastating for those 10 people. We profiled one family member who had lost someone very young, and it was so hard to even watch that story, let alone live it. But thankfully that number has been staying low. One of the other things that we've watched is how many test results come back in each day. I know we had 5,500 test results come in the last day that were registered in there to us. Overall, we've seen about 1.5 million test results. That's both PCR and antibody test results. So wanted to keep you all updated on that number as well. And we have just passed 29 million cases worldwide and 6.5 million cases here in the US. So two sort of larger markers as we track all of this. 29 million cases on the planet and 6.5 million cases here in the US, for those of you who were tracking that number as well. Garrett, we've got a lot of comments coming in. I'm trying to keep up with them. And I want to answer some of them. Let me scroll back. Yeah, Margaret writes, any percentage is too high for me and my kid. That's all I care about. Exactly. I know a lot of parents feel like that. A lot of schools are sending out their surveys now. We got a lot of schools with their surveys sent out earlier, asking, what do you want to do? Do you want to come back? Do you want to do the hybrid? Do you want to wait? And even more surveys going out just this week to some school districts here. And we continue to track it all. If you have any questions about which school districts are back and which are still doing the distance learning at this point, you can find all of that information on our website, which is abc15.com, and then go /schools. And you'll be able to find specific school information on when they open, what they're considering, all of that as well. So that's the best spot to find that information for your kids, or if you want to see what it looks like just in your neighborhood, maybe you don't have kids in school or your grandkids, that's the best spot to find it. Brant asks, does U of A share their numbers as well? Brant, yes, we just went over that. U of A is 148 total cases.
Yeah.
So cumulative. Each of the big universities does share. Let's see. Autumn writes, I'm sorry, but my kid will not be going to school, not risking his life. Oh, it just went by too fast. Sorry, let me scroll back. Not risking his life for nothing. We'll keep him online, and we're seeing that. So here's how the survey broke down. The most recent survey we got in was from the Scottsdale School District. Half of the survey respondents said, want to come back right away. About 30% said we'll go at a predetermined date, and 29% said not at all. We'll talk in December, which is in essence in January. So just kind of a snapshot on how things look just in one school district. Somebody else wrote that they hadn't seen many people in their neighborhood wearing masks. I was just curious, weigh in on this. When you go to a drive-through, are you still wearing a mask? Do you believe that you're far enough away? Are you wearing a mask, or do you not do a drive-through at all? There's Robert's comment. See, way too many people not wearing masks out and about. I'm wondering if they're already out of the store and away from people and they're going to their car. So tell me what you're seeing. When I see people go through a drive-through, I see like half of them with a mask on and half off. Just curious what you all do, what you've decided works for you. Becca writes, my kids will be going back to school. Becca, thanks for weighing in. Yeah, we saw about 50% saying they were ready for that. Again, that's just one school district who released their numbers to us. I just thought it was an interesting talking point and an interesting insight into what people are doing and what people are choosing. All right, Garrett, what other numbers were you watching closely today?
We had some excellent hospitalization numbers today.
Wow.
I mean, hospitalization. I know that it's a Monday, and we talk about the low reporting days, but the hospitalization numbers are pretty robust to those weekend reportings because they're reported by the hospitals who are on staff 24 hours a day. It's not an They don't have to hire a bunch of investigators for this, so these numbers are a little better as far as weekends go. And we're looking at record lows in both inpatient and ICU numbers, which are fantastic. I mean, it's great to see record lows there. The COVID-like illness number continued to drop. It was recalculated this Sunday, and it went down again for both emergency room and inpatient. So all in all, while there might be some case growth going on with that RT just peeking its head above 1, the hospitalizations they continue to drop. With the exception of emergency room visits, that doesn't. It's still dropping. It's just dropping at a lower rate than the others.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's some good news overall as we continue to watch that too. Okay, Garrett, we're going into this week, and obviously Thursday is the day that counties sort of reconfigure their numbers just to see they take a closer look and say, how do things look week to week? Do you think, or is it too early to tell if any of these counties are going to be in better shape coming up this week?
Give me 2 seconds, and I'll do a quick look at that. I didn't look at it before, so I just have to.
No, that's fine. And Anthony, I see your question about recovery numbers. We'll get back to that. I'm jotting some of these questions down, and as Garrett pulls up the appropriate graph for what we're talking about, we'll get back to some of your questions. So let's see here. Oh, you know what? A lot of people weighing in on this. Interesting. Some people are saying that they wear them in the drive-thru out of respect, and we're talking about masks. Wear a mask in the drive-thru out of respect to show support for the workers. Yeah, great comments coming in. Just some people saying I will not wear a mask in my own car. Kathy writes, I wear a mask when going through the drive-thru. So a lot of people saying they're just doing it out of respect for the other person. Shanna writes, no mask in the drive-thru. Never in my neighborhood. Why wear one outside? So a lot of mixed comments on that. Thanks, you guys, for weighing in. I was so curious. It feels like I'm seeing like half and half, but I didn't know what you all are seeing in your neighborhoods as well. Obviously, they're wearing masks if they go inside, but just curious what you're doing with the drive-thru situation. Deanna writes, husband started a new job today after 6-month furlough. Great news. She said, I sent him out with masks and hand sanitizers and prayers. That's for sure. Deanna, that's good news, though, overall. Glad he's off furlough and working again. Garrett, any luck with that?
Yes, I'm ready for you. Let me just I'm putting up the dashboard from the work dashboard because it's the easiest to understand the substantial, moderate, and minimal. Here's Yuma. Yuma is one of the counties that is still in the substantial. Even though I was just checking both the cases and the percent positive, which both look like they will be fine for the August 30th turnover. Right now, it's checking at August 23rd. So by August 30th, they're both going to be, both of those metrics are going to be in the yellow. The problem, of course, is it's not going to be in the yellow for 2 weeks. So unfortunately, it appears that Yuma County is going to have to wait until October 1st to calculate into yellow if everything continues in its current trajectory. But that 10.1% right there is really messing with them because they need to have 2 weeks inside the yellow, and that just kind of messed it up. So it looks like it's unfortunately going to be 2 weeks for them.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were watching from Yuma. The other interesting situation we have going on is Pinal County, because last week, remember, it came out and they had that sneaky double asterisk there next to their number, and the concern in that was that they would keep going up. Now, once they met the metric, they were allowed to open, but with caution. How do things look this week?
Yeah, and if I look at Pinal County and I look at the August 30th, right now their percent positive is at 3%, which is well under where it needs to be, and the case count is also where it needs to be. It's at 406. I'm not going to do I can't do per capita in my head. I wish I could. But if you look at sort of where the numbers are from last week, where this is, that's lower than this number. So they should have 2 yellows here. This is going to be under 3% where it is now. So they'll stay moderate. And then Gila, which I believe is still insubstantial, will also go moderate because it's this that's causing them to stay in the substantial, and their case count has remained. It's gone up. It has gone up. It went from 32 to 45. However, when I look at where that should keep them still in the yellow, even though it will be an increase. It'll be an increase within an acceptable number.
One of the questions I'm getting, Stacy writes, you may have already mentioned this, but why does the state show the percent positive as 0 for lab reporting for the week ending 9/13?
Because the week ending 9/13 is today. So we have no percent positives essentially from yesterday. And the number of tests that were conducted is extremely minimal. I'm just looking to see if I can find out what that number is, if at all, any tests that were conducted. There were 10 tests that were collected from yesterday. So yeah, the percent positive is 0 for the week of 9/13, simply because there's only 10 tests from the week of 9/13.
Yeah, so Stacy, watch that each day, and you'll see that number start to change as that fills in. That last one that you always see there doesn't have enough information until it's late in the week.
Yeah, it really takes till Wednesday. It takes really till Wednesday or Thursday for that number to settle. I mean, tomorrow that number could be, it could technically be 7, 8, 9%. Because they might still be testing at ASU, and it pops a little bit, but then over the course of 3 more days, it'll go back down to like 3 or 4%. So it's just one of those things that it takes a while for it to have enough of a population distribution to get to where it's going to end up.
Yeah. Christoph writes, N1H1 had way worse and nothing shut down. So Christoph, the difference with that N1H1 is that we had a different death number. So yes, there were a lot of cases. It was not as deadly. So look at that number when you're comparing those, and you'll be able to see why they are treating this so differently. Stacy writes, thank you. Stacy, you're welcome. Happy to help. That's why we're here, to answer all these questions. Anything you see that seems like an anomaly, or we can help you better understand what's going on with it.
And Anthony Paul asks, why are serology positives not put in a recovered category? That is a fantastic question, Anthony. I wish I had an answer to that, but the answer is that the AZDHS does not give us recovered numbers. So unfortunately, I don't know. I wish I knew, because to me, just intuitively, it does appear that it would be a very smart thing to put out at least some sort of recovery numbers, or at least active case numbers, but they choose not to. So, we can only do what we have, which we do have. I'm just trying to pull it up right now. I believe the last I checked, the active case number was, I think it was 10 to 14. Does that sound right, Katie? I sent it out this morning, and I already forgot it.
And Anthony was the one who asked about the recovery numbers. 10,000 to 14,000 is what you're saying?
I'm pulling it up just in case. I'm forgetting exactly what I said.
I think that's
I pull so many numbers up, I forget the numbers after I put them out sometimes. It's okay. So here it is. It's 10.2 to 17.5 active confirmed cases. That's what we likely have in Arizona, is anywhere from 10.2 to 17.5.
Yeah. So, and Garrett, the way you get that, to sort of pull back the curtain on that number, you take the 208,000 cases here in Arizona. Sadly, you have to subtract the deaths out of that, and then you kind of look at the dates, how long.
Yeah, if the case is less than 14 days old, it's considered active on the low recovery estimate, that would be, I guess, the real. I mean, there's no doubt that cases that are under 14 days old, that a good portion of those are infectious. So that's that 10.2. Whereas the 17.4 are cases that are under 28 days. And it includes those cases that are under 14 as well. So there's a good chance that a lot of those 17.5 are not infectious any longer. They're still considered active and in quarantine in some cases by some county health departments, but it's sort of, you have to, it's a conservative estimate. That's just the way you have to do it, because I can't sit around walking around saying, only 8,000 people in Arizona are actively infectious, when we don't really know that. All we can do is just base it off the case number and say it's likely that the range is in this somewhere.
Yeah, there's always the long haulers who've been sick for a very long time, and also people who would be able to recover a little bit faster. So this is just the best range we can offer to you. So
yeah, it's the best range we can give.
Yeah, hopefully that helps. Yeah. Oh, Deanna writes, thank you. It's a little scary but necessary. Your numbers help resolve my fears. Thank you, Deanna. That's exactly why we do this. Never to make anyone scared or feel filled with fear, to be educated on these numbers, to really know how things look in your neighborhood, in your zip code, so that you can make the best decisions for your family and your life. As I always say on here, you know their health, you know their tendencies, you know your kids, if they're going to wear their mask all day or not, you know them. So we're just here to help you find the numbers that make you make the most educated decision for you and for your family. Let's see, we had another question just a second ago.
Oh, I'm saying I want to go after this because I see it at least once a day. I'm sorry, Cynthia. Cynthia saying CDC only says 6% of the reported deaths are from COVID.
Yeah.
That is not correct. That's a misread of that specific statistic. What that is CDC is saying that 6% of the death certificates neglected to put any other form of any other cause of death on there. That does not mean, if you've ever seen a death certificate, just because COVID-19 is on there, in fact, in almost every case, gunshot wounds, anything that is sort of the cause of death, there's going to be other reasons as to what really caused the death. So that's really more about, we're missing 6% of the data rather than 6% are only from COVID-19. I know it sounds a little absurd, but you're essentially, if that 6%, we're equating that to 6% of people spontaneously combusted from COVID-19, and that's just that's not how it works.
It was initially a misread of the data by whoever put this together, put this article together, and then it kind of went viral based on people who wanted to share that idea that. Yeah,
it's basically telling us, as a data person, when I'm looking at data, I want to know the completeness of the data source. And what that is that's telling people who do these analysis that, hey, just so you know, 6% of the deaths that we have in here do not have anything in the cause of death except for COVID-19. So it's more of a statement of data completeness rather than a statement of fact on the deaths of COVID-19. But people just misread that because, again, they're looking at a very esoteric source. I mean, I showed you, and I think I don't remember if I put this on here, but that 6%, they've had that on a page since like May. On one of my data source trackings, it's always said 94%. So it's been that way for the longest time because it's just, they're going through them. A lot of the 6% in May, they've already been filled in and reinvestigated, and now we still have a 6%. So it's more of a margin of error than anything else, and it is not a manipulation of the numbers, Gary.
So KJ writes, oh yes, these two know more than the CDC. Why hasn't the CDC corrected the information? They haven't corrected the information.
There's nothing to correct. There's nothing to correct.
The information is not wrong. How they're interpreting it on these websites that are sharing it, that's the part that's wrong. It's a misinterpretation of a correct number. So the CDC doesn't need to correct anything. What they have on there is correct. How somebody who is not an epidemiologist, who is not a data person, wrote an article and put something together, and it got shared and shared and shared, and they're misinterpreting. Does that make sense? So the number on there is correct. The interpretation is what's wrong. So that's what we're here to help you understand. So it's not that it's wrong, KJ, it's that it's misinterpreted. There is a big difference in those two words.
Yeah, so, I mean, that means that, in May, if there were 100 deaths from COVID-19, then 6 of them had nothing but the COVID-19 on there as a cause of death. Fast forward to today, and there's another 100 deaths. Well, those 6% had already been corrected and properly analyzed, and it no longer has, those 6 deaths no longer have just COVID-19 on there because there was an investigative process to fix them. And now we still have another 6 that have to be investigated. And it takes time to do this. So we're looking at this as a snapshot, and it's not a snapshot. This is a investigative process that takes a long time. Yeah.
And as Nicole writes, Katie and Garrett, you can tell people this till you're blue in the face, but people don't listen. Exactly. I know. They're hearing what they want to hear, just helping to clear this up. And then Anthony writes, 6% have inaccurate death certificates. It's impossible to just die from COVID-19 alone. That's exactly it. You're not just getting COVID and then that's it. You're having all of these symptoms, all of these reactions. So there's several things that should be listed on a complete death certificate when it's filled out. But for some reason they only had one thing. Stephen writes, wow, they have to answer this every day. You know, that's this, you know what, this sort of misread on this information went everywhere on a Sunday, Garrett, and it's our day off obviously on Sunday, and I just went, oh my gosh, we're going to be clearing this one up forever. So it's okay. We're happy to do it because we want the right information out there. We want you guys to really understand what this means. Go take a peek, search it yourself at how many lines there are on a death certificate, and they fill all those out if there are multiple things. So that's what you're seeing on there. That's the confusion. We'll stop there. Spent too much time already on it, but anyway, okay. What other things do we need to get to today, Garrett? It's a Monday. I want to let people know that you can go get a COVID test. If you're needing one, you're feeling like you're needing one. Obviously, these numbers are lower right now of how many people are going and getting tested. You can go to doineedacovid19test.com. That'll have the very easiest place to find all the information. It's going to tell you where you can get saliva tests, where you can get the PCR test, the nasal swab tests, all of them. So you can get that information on there. I did the antibody test this weekend. I went, my provider goes through Sonora Quest, and they were actually kind of making jokes about how long it was taking the last time. They said, don't worry, the delay is not there anymore. I was like, I got you, we're good. But I got the antibody test, Garrett. It was a blood draw, it was quick. And let's see, I went at about 3 o'clock on Friday, and I had my answer by 3 a.m. The message came through on my phone on Saturday. So it was a 36-hour turnaround to be exact. Obviously, COVID negative, great news. I was happy to hear that, or antibody negative. I know some people might be mixed on that because they feel like they already have the antibodies in them and they feel like a superhero.
Superpower. It's the 2020 superpower.
Yeah. Margaret writes, LabCorp is quick too. 1-day result. That's great news, Margaret. Yeah, so I've done the actual saliva test through ASU. That was very, very fast. I did that in July when I wasn't feeling great. And then I happened to have the antibody test this weekend. But it's nice that it's really fast. So if anyone was interested in that, I do know if you don't have insurance but you'd like to donate blood either to Vitalant or Red Cross, they will also run your blood to see if you have the antibodies. So if you're looking for somewhere, I know not everyone can donate, so I understand, but if you can donate and you don't have insurance or you don't have a way to pay for that, that's a way that you could get that information for free. Woo! Lots to get through today. Okay, Garrett, what else are you watching closely?
We'll just go over the CLI since it's new.
Yeah.
So this is the COVID-like illness syndromic surveillance is the algorithm that the CDC uses to sort of just do a poll, if you will, a survey of all of the emergency room departments and inpatients to see what things look like. You can see it's continued to go down. In fact, it's where it was. Here's the CLI from inpatient, and it's at 2.2%. It was at 2.7 this last week, so 2.2, and that is about where it was on March 8th. So basically the beginning of March, and the emergency room department numbers are the lowest they've ever been. So it's just, something to keep watching. We haven't seen an increase here, even with the bounces from ASU and U of A, all the colleges. We haven't seen any increase in the CLI, which should typically be one of the first things that pops up if there is a concern. That's one of the first things. And really, I was looking for this for Labor Day too, because we're coming farther and farther away from Labor Day, and you'd expect sort of an increase in emergency room visits of people that are worried that they may have contracted the symptoms, and we haven't seen that yet either. So again, all good news in that respect.
Yeah. Let's see. Patrick writes, if only the media cared about public health before, are you going to count the flu deaths coming up? Patrick, actually, you have missed our reporting because we always keep you updated on the flu, especially pediatric flu deaths. We always report on those. When there is a pediatric flu death in Arizona, we report those within our newscast. Always have. I don't see that changing, so I'll say always will. In addition to that, they're going to be giving us more information this year about the flu. That will.
My understanding is they're going to do almost a similar dashboard for COVID-19. Yeah. That they have for the flu. It's a slightly different dashboard now, and I presume that because of the emergency order, the executive order had a very similar sort of language that the COVID-19 one did, so they might be giving us pretty much the same stuff. Now, of course, this is flu. I mean, flu is so much less as far as volume larger, but obviously much less hospitalization. So really, you're only looking at people who are going to hospitals and clinics to get tested for the flu, because so many people just go
recover at home.
Yeah, just take it and sit it out and move on.
Yeah, exactly. So, but pediatric ones we have always reported on. You just probably, it wasn't high on your radar, so you didn't notice when that information came through on our newscast. All right, we are starting to run out of time. I want to update you. The president is running late. So that's why we haven't let you know that he's landed yet. We haven't let you know that Air Force One has touched down here in Phoenix. They were expected to arrive at about 1:30, 1:45, I believe. It's now 2:15, and they are expecting him now to be on the ground at about 2:20 p.m. So if you live in the flight path of Sky Harbor, you can in fact probably see Air Force One, the massive jet, as it heads in. Or we'll continue to keep you updated live throughout this feed, and also right here on Facebook Live on our ABC 15 site. We will also have a little bit more on his meeting with Latinos for Trump. And we have not heard anything yet about Joe Biden visiting Arizona, although he said he expected to after Labor Day. So we'll keep you updated on all of that. And we have a matter of minutes left. Garrett, I want to let people know where they can find you and get the very latest info. You do an easy update to digest over the weekends, and he does those on the weekdays as well. So you can find his Twitter account at Garrett_Archer, and you can find me on Twitter at Katie Raml, just one word there. And since many of you are watching on Facebook right now, if you prefer Facebook, it's facebook.com/news from Katie. Oh, you know what Nick's asking, is there going to be an issue for you going home at 4 because of the president? You know what? He is traveling to the Arizona Grand Resort. So if you're anywhere between
the 60 freeway and the 10 freeway, just to avoid it like the plague.
They'll be clearing those out. So you should note that if you are trying to get around the valley at that time. And of course, when he goes to leave as well. When I was in the motorcade 2 visits ago, it was such a short ride. It was actually across the tarmac. That was it. So we didn't even have to really leave airport property. So it's interesting how they maneuver when they get here into the valley and shut roads down. So do note that when you're making your way around the valley this afternoon. Kathy writes, thank you very much. You guys are super. Kathy, we think you're super too. Thank you so much for joining us on here and taking time with us. Let's see. Oh yeah, I-10 and baseline, stay away. Yeah, you probably want to avoid that because things are going to be shut down at that point. What did I not include? Our reporting on coronavirus can always be found on our website at abc15.com/coronavirus. The very latest information is right there. And also, we have our newscasts at 4, 5, 6, and 10 p.m. And I won't forget to note that we have a new newscast for you at 9 p.m. For those of you who are going to bed a little bit earlier here in the pandemic, maybe working from home, you can catch us at 9 over on CW 61. Maze is asking, how many actual cases are there in Arizona right now? It's an estimate, Garrett. We said between 10 and 14,000 active cases right now.
10 and 17.
Yeah, but total cases so far in Arizona, 208,000. So we'll get one more question answered in there before we go. We will be back here tomorrow, have even more information for you. I should say Garrett will be back here tomorrow. I'm taking the day off. It's my son's 3rd birthday. So we're going to go, we're going to go to the living room, to the kitchen. We'll eat cake in the kitchen, and then we'll go back to the living room and maybe play outside. So nothing too exciting, but we'll be celebrating here. He's turning 3, and 3 is my favorite age. So I'm so excited for that. All right. So Faye will be here tomorrow with you. You'll be in good hands, and Garrett will be back here, and I will see you on Wednesday. In the meantime, be safe, everybody.